The paradox of detachment, unlocking authentic freedom. Imagine a life where the weight of expectation and the shackles of concern no longer bind you. This is the realm of detachment, a concept often misunderstood but deeply liberating when embraced. Detachment doesn't mean we don't care about outcomes or people. It means we approach our interactions and desires without clinging, without the desperate need for specific outcomes to define our happiness or our sense of self-worth. Now let's explore what happens when we let go of this tight grip on life. Picture holding a handful of sand. Clenched tightly in your fist, it trickles away, but held loosely, it remains. This is a powerful metaphor for life. When we release our grasp, we actually maintain the capacity to fully experience life without loss. Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons. The art of not caring in the sense of desperate attachment starts with understanding the nature of desire. We all have desires. They are natural and often drive us to achieve. However, there is a fine line between healthy ambition and attachment. The latter often leads to a cycle of constant craving and frustration. When we care too much about specific outcomes, our well-being becomes contingent on factors often outside of our control. So, what happens when we shift from attachment to a state of flow? First, we experience an internal sense of freedom. This freedom comes from understanding that we are not our successes or failures. We are not the opinions of others. Once we internalize this, a sense of serenity begins to take root. This serenity is not a passive state. It is an active engagement with life from a place of balance. It allows us to act with intention, not reaction. When we operate from this place, our actions align with our true selves, not with an anxious attempt to control the narrative of our lives. In this detached state, we also find the clarity to make decisions that are in our best interest. The fog of neediness dissipates, and we see our options with a newfound perspective. We're more likely to choose paths that lead to growth rather than immediate gratification, which often leads to long-term dissatisfaction. Think about the last time you made a decision because you felt you had to, not because you truly wanted to. How different would that decision have been if you had approached it with detachment? It's in these moments that we realize detachment is not about not caring. It's about caring in the right way, for the right reasons. Another transformation that occurs is in our relationships. When we stop desperately needing something from others, whether that be validation, love, or approval, we give them the space to be themselves. This space is where authentic connections flourish. We become better listeners, more empathetic companions, and we form bonds based on mutual respect rather than need. Detachment also empowers us to let go of the narratives that have defined us. We often cling to stories about who we are, what we can achieve, and what we deserve. These stories can limit us, keeping us trapped in a cycle of self-fulfilling prophecies. When we release these narratives, we open ourselves to limitless possibilities. We redefine our identity on our own terms. This process brings us to a place of humility. We recognize that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, and our individual desires, while important, are not the center of the universe. This is not to say that our actions and desires lack significance, but rather that we find our place within the cosmic dance of existence. Detachment breeds resilience. Life is inherently unpredictable, and suffering is an inevitable part of the human experience. Attaching our happiness to specific outcomes is a recipe for disappointment. However, when we approach life with open hands, we can weather its storms with grace. We become adaptable, able to pivot and find joy in the unexpected turns. In this state of detachment, we also begin to experience gratitude in a more profound way. Gratitude is no longer contingent on our circumstances, but becomes a constant undercurrent in our lives. When we're not fixated on what we lack, we open our eyes to the abundance that surrounds us. Now consider this. What is the nature of the possession you seek? Is it not true that in the very moment of attaining the object of your desire begins its journey of decay? The beauty of detachment lies in the joy of pursuit, the learning, the experience, not solely the possession. As we move through this exploration, we find that detachment is not the end of passion. In fact, it can fuel a more profound, more grounded passion. Without the fear of loss or failure, we are free to pursue our passions with a pure intensity that is not dampened by the fear of outcome. Detachment brings us closer to our core, where lies a tranquility untouched by the external. In this place, we find the strength to meet life's challenges with composure and to embrace its joys with an open heart. It is here that we discover the power to live fully, to love freely, and to move through the world with a gentle, unshakable confidence. This confidence isn't born from arrogance or ignorance, but from the deep understanding that we are more than the sum of our experiences and possessions. As we embrace this mindset, we may find that our goals and aspirations subtly shift. The things we once thought were critical to our happiness may no longer hold the same allure. This isn't to say that we lose ambition or drive. Rather, our ambition becomes purer, untainted by the fear of inadequacy or the desire for external validation. In this process, we begin to redefine success. Success is no longer about reaching a particular destination, but about walking our path with integrity, presence, and wisdom. We measure our progress not in accolades or achievements, but in the depth of our experiences and the quality of our relationships. Detachment allows us to experience life in its fullness, to embrace the moment without the need for it to be anything other than what it is. It's about finding joy in the simple act of being, rather than in the relentless pursuit of doing. This shift in perspective brings an unexpected contentment that is not easily shaken by life's ebbs and flows. But how do we cultivate such a state? It starts with mindfulness, the practice of being present in each moment. Mindfulness roots us in the now, preventing our minds from becoming entangled in the past or anxious about the future. It allows us to witness our thoughts and desires without automatically acting on them, providing the space necessary to respond rather than react. Let's consider our attachment to time. How often do we find ourselves saying, "I'll be happy when..." The problem with this mindset is that it places happiness just out of reach, always on the horizon, never in the present. When we let go of this temporal attachment, we unlock the joy that is available right here, right now. This brings us to the concept of impermanence. Everything in life is transient, and when we truly understand and accept this, our grip on the material and immaterial loosens. We learn to enjoy the beauty of a fleeting moment, to appreciate the temporary nature of all things. This appreciation fuels our detachment as we understand that clinging to anything is an exercise in futility. What happens when we start to live according to these principles? We become more creative, more innovative. Without the fear of failure or judgment, we are free to explore new ideas and take risks. We become pioneers of our own lives, charting courses that are uniquely our own. Detachment also leads to a heightened sense of empathy and compassion. When we are not so preoccupied with our agenda, we have the space to truly see others, to hear them, and to be with them in their struggles and triumphs. Our relationships become less about what we can gain and more about what we can share. In this state of detachment, we also find that our intuition becomes sharper. We are more in tune with the subtle cues and whispers of our inner voice, which guides us more effectively than the loud demands of our ego. We become better navigators of our lives because we are guided by a compass that points to our true north, not to the fleeting desires of the moment. We also learn the value of simplicity. In a world that constantly urges us to want more, to be more, to do more, detachment invites us to strip away the non-essential. It asks us to question what we truly need for a fulfilled life and to let go of the excess that burdens us. Detachment is not something we achieve once and then move on from. It is a practice, a daily choice. It is the decision to let go each moment, to accept what we cannot change, and to put our energy into what we can. It is a commitment to inner peace over external approval. The beauty of detachment lies in its paradox. In letting go, we gain so much more. We gain freedom, peace, and the ability to love and live fully. We gain the world, not by possessing it, but by releasing it. The path to detachment is not without its challenges. It requires us to confront deeply ingrained patterns and to challenge societal norms that equate success with possession and worth with achievement. It asks us to be brave, to be different, to stand in our truth, even when it goes against the current. So, as we continue on this path, let us embrace the art of not caring in the way the world expects us to. Let us care instead about the quality of our presence, the depth of our peace, and the authenticity of our journey. Now, before we move on to the next part, I invite you to take a moment of silence. In this silence, reflect on what detachment means to you. How does it feel to imagine a life lived with open hands, an open heart, and an open mind? The liberation of letting go, a journey to the heart of presence. When we begin to unravel the threads of attachment that bind us, a surprising truth emerges. The more we let go, the more present we become to the richness of life. In this state of presence, we discover a well of internal resources that were previously obscured by our relentless pursuit of specific outcomes. In presence, we find patience. Patience is not merely the ability to wait, but the ability to maintain a state of grace in the waiting. It is an active engagement with the present moment, a refusal to allow the future to encroach on the fullness of now. How often do we sacrifice the present at the altar of the future? In presence, we reclaim the here and now as our true home. Presence also invites us to experience life with a sense of wonder. Detachment doesn't lead to disinterest or disengagement, quite the opposite. It allows us to engage with life as if we were seeing it for the first time, again and again. Each moment becomes an opportunity to witness the miracle of existence, to appreciate the intricate dance of life with fresh eyes. This wonder is not naive. It is rooted in a deep awareness of the complexity and beauty of the world. It does not shy away from pain or difficulty, but meets all aspects of life with a heart wide open. In this openness, we begin to experience life not as a series of problems to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived. In the heart of presence, we also find courage. The courage to face the unknown, to step into the void without a map. Detachment empowers us to take risks, to leap without certainty of where we will land. This courage is not reckless. It is born of the trust that whatever the outcome, we will be okay. It is a trust in ourselves, in our capacity to rise and adapt, and in the fundamental goodness of the journey itself. How often do we hold ourselves back because we fear failure, or worse, fear the judgment that might follow failure? In the liberation of letting go, we give ourselves permission to fail, to be imperfect, to be human. We recognize that each stumble is a part of the dance, each fall a chance to rise stronger. The presence also deepens our compassion, for ourselves and for others. When we are present, we can't help but notice the suffering around us and within us. But instead of being overwhelmed by it, we are moved to action. We become healers in our own right, not through grand gestures, but through countless small acts of kindness. As we let go of our need for control, we also let go of our rigid expectations of others. We allow them to be who they are, not who we want them to be. This release is an act of profound love, a gift that frees both the giver and the receiver. In this newfound freedom, we find that our relationships transform. They become less about transactions. What can you do for me? What can I do for you? And more about connection. We relate not from a place of scarcity, fearing that we might not get our share, but from a place of abundance, knowing that in the giving and receiving there is always enough. Presence also brings authenticity. When we are no longer preoccupied with how we are perceived, we are free to be ourselves. This authenticity is magnetic. It draws people to us, not because we are perfect, but because we are real. In a world that often values image over substance, authenticity stands out. It resonates. It inspires. The detachment and presence teach us about the nature of action. We learn that the most powerful actions are those taken not out of compulsion or a desire for reward, but from a quiet inner directive. These actions are imbued with a subtle potency. They ripple out into the world, creating waves of change that we may never fully see. Consider the paradox of non-action. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is nothing at all. In the stillness of non-action, we allow space for things to unfold, for life to find its own balance. This is not a passive resignation, but an active surrender to the flow of life. But how do we maintain this presence, this state of detachment, in a world that constantly pulls us out of the present, that glorifies attachment and possession? It requires vigilance, a commitment to returning to the present each time we find ourselves pulled into the past or future. It is here, in the present moment, that we find the power to create. Detachment is not about abdicating our role as creators, but about redefining it. We become co-creators with life, working with the materials we are given, adapting and shaping, but always with an openness to the outcome. As creators, we also become students of impermanence. We learn to create without clinging, to produce without possessiveness. Our creations become offerings to the world, gifts given freely, without the need for them to define us. The journey to the heart of presence is a transformative process, one that continually asks us to examine our attachments and our identities. It is a path marked by the beauty of transience, the wisdom of uncertainty, and the joy of freedom. Ultimately, the liberation of letting go is not about losing ourselves or our passions. It's about finding a deeper connection to the essence of who we are, beyond the ephemeral desires and fears that often dictate our actions. It's about coming home to the very core of our being, where the noise of the world fades away and the truth of our connection to all things becomes clear. In this space, we realize that presence is not something we need to chase or capture. It is always here, waiting for us to peel away the layers that obscure it. And each time we return to presence, we do so with deeper wisdom, richer experiences, and a more profound capacity for love. So let us continue this journey together, embracing the liberation of letting go and discovering the infinite treasures that reside in the here and now. For it is in this very moment that life is truly lived, and it is from this moment that all possibilities arise. The dance of impermanence, embracing change as the constant companion. As we delve deeper into the practice of presence and the art of letting go, we begin to understand that change is not just a feature of life, but its very essence. The world around us and within us is in perpetual motion, shifting and evolving in countless ways, both seen and unseen. The leaf unfurls, the seasons cycle, relationships ebb and flow, and our thoughts come and go like clouds in a vast sky. In a culture that often seeks to hold on to what is fleeting, the acceptance of impermanence becomes a revolutionary act. It is a commitment to flow with life rather than resist it, to see the beauty in the transitory nature of all things. This acceptance doesn't mean resignation to fate. Rather, it is an active participation in the unfolding of our own story. The wisdom of seasons. Learning from nature's cycles. We can turn to nature for lessons in handling change. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished in its time. The cherry blossoms bloom at the peak of their beauty, only to fall away, making room for the fruit to grow. There is no sense of loss in this cycle, only transformation. In this way, we can learn to embrace our own seasons of growth and release. There are times for action and times for rest, times to speak up and times to listen. By tuning into our own natural rhythms, we can move through life with greater ease and grace. The heart of resilience, bouncing back with grace. Resilience is often born from our encounters with change. It is not about building walls to keep the change out, but about developing the flexibility to withstand the winds of life without breaking. Resilience is acknowledging our vulnerabilities and recognizing them as sources of strength. This resilience also enables us to approach life with a sense of curiosity and creativity. When change is the only constant, each moment becomes a chance to learn something new, to test our assumptions, and to experiment with different ways of being. Transience in relationships, honoring the ephemeral connection. Our relationships, too, are subject to the laws of change. Sometimes they are deeply rooted and enduring. Other times, they are like ships that pass in the night, brief but luminous in their intensity. By honoring the impermanent nature of our connections, we become more present in them, appreciating the unique contribution each person brings into our lives, however long or short their stay may be. The practice of non-attachment in relationships does not diminish our capacity for love. It amplifies it. We love not out of fear of loss, but out of the joy of truly seeing and being seen. We learn to love without clinging, to be with someone as they are, not as we want them to be. Creative endeavors, the flow of inspiration and expression. In the realm of creativity, embracing impermanence reminds us that inspiration is a visiting muse, not a permanent resident. Our job is not to grasp ideas, but to be open and ready when they arrive, providing a channel for them to flow through us into the world. Our artistic and creative expressions are snapshots of a moment in time, reflections of who we are in the now. As we evolve, so does our work. It is a living process, a dialogue between our inner and outer worlds. The practice of mindfulness, anchoring in the now mindfulness, is the tool that brings us back to the present, the anchor in the fluid sea of change. It teaches us to notice the subtle shifts within and around us, to observe without judgment, and to remain centered amid the flux. Through mindfulness, we learn that we are not our thoughts or emotions. We are the space in which they arise and dissolve. This spaciousness is our true home, unbounded and untouched by the vicissitudes of life. The beauty of imperfection, wabi-sabi and the art of life. The Japanese concept of wabi-sabi captures the essence of finding beauty in imperfection and impermanence. It is the crack in the vase, the weathered wood, the asymmetry that speaks to the natural order of things. Wabi-sabi invites us to appreciate the imperfect as perfect, to see the marks of time and use as stories etched into the fabric of objects and beings. As we embody the principles of wabi-sabi, we start to see our own scars and wrinkles, our own unfinished edges, as marks of beauty. They are testimonies to the life we have lived and the changes we have weathered. In the symphony of life, each moment is a note, each day a melody, each year a movement. The music is ever-changing, never to be repeated exactly the same way. When we embrace this symphony, we step into the flow of life, dancing to its rhythms, adding our own unique harmony to the chorus. To embrace impermanence is to embrace life in its totality, its crescendos and its silences, its harmonies and its dissonances. It is to understand that life's beauty lies in its dynamism, in the intricate interplay of forming and dissolving, coming together and falling apart. In this grand composition, we find that our truest power lies not in trying to compose every note, but in how we respond to the music that life presents to us. Our dance with change is a dance with life itself, fluid, graceful, and full of possibility. So as we continue on this journey, let's carry with us the lessons of impermanence, the acceptance of change, the resilience in transformation, the joy in the ephemeral, and the peace in the present. Let the dance of life unfold, and may we move with it, present to each step, each turn, each moment of this exquisite dance of impermanence. In this way, we find that presence is more than a practice. It's a way of being. It's a lens through which we view the world, one that brings into focus the transient yet timeless beauty of now. Through this lens, we see that each moment, each connection, each experience is a treasure, not despite its impermanence, but because of it. For it is in this very impermanence that we find the urgency to truly live, to love deeply, to create passionately, and to savor the sweetness of life. And in this impermanence, we find the freedom to be ourselves, to express our truth, and to let go over and over again into the flow of existence.